Welcome to another segment of Ask Dr. Furlong Live. We're doing our Facebook Live segment. We've done several of these. We enjoy doing them. I've got a special guest I'll introduce here in just a second. This is a time where we spend about 15 minutes taking questions about a specific topic. And today we have Jared Shawlee with me, who's the Chief Operating Officer of the San Jose Earthquakes. Welcome.
Awesome, great to be here.
He's also a patient of mine. I did laser vision correction on him in 2010. He had a significant degree of something called astigmatism, and we're going to get into that in just a little bit. One of the things that I wanted to highlight is we've had a long-term association with the San Jose Earthquakes. We're a legacy sponsor, which means we've been partnered with the team for more than a decade, and we enjoy that association. I get to go to the games, we get to do surgery on some of the players and staff, and really bring what I have my practice surrounding laser vision correction to this market, and it's been really, really exciting over the years. Jared came to me years ago and said, hey, can I get rid of these glasses? And by the way, I think I remember they were pretty funky looking, nice black rim glasses, but you had to wear them to see your best. Tell me a little bit about, now that you don't wear them anymore, tell me what your recollection was back then and what you had to do to see well with your glasses.
Yeah, so I think we first met probably 2007, 2008 when the Earthquakes were coming back into the market. Right. Dr. Furlong was one of the first sponsors to jump back on board with the new team. And I was very unfamiliar with LASIK at that point. I wore glasses out of necessity. I didn't like wearing glasses. I was a person who would wear glasses, and as soon as I got to a bar or restaurant, put them in my pocket, pull them out when I need them, put them back, scratched them, broke them, lost them. Yeah. But LASIK had never really registered for me, more so out of probably fear than anything else.
Okay.
I was somebody who didn't like to wear contacts. I didn't like anything around the eye area. And I think talking with you the first time we met, and I had some questions, I developed a comfort with the idea of it. Sure. And we walked through the process, and I think it was a no-brainer for me there.
One of the things that is really key is knowing what your vision problem is, and when I did Jared's exam, I found that he had a significant degree of something called astigmatism. If you think of the shape of the eye and put it into context of what we're talking about, if your eye is shaped more like a soccer ball in the front, you really don't have much astigmatism. It's a pretty straightforward treatment. But astigmatism means the cornea is shaped a little bit more like a football rather than a basketball. So it's more oval shaped. It's got one area that's a little steeper than the other. And the lasers nowadays can treat that. I had to measure what he had to make sure the degree that he measured was within the treatment range. And once we confirmed that, I said, I think it's a go. It's an option for you. Most people have heard of what LASIK is, and most people have LASIK surgery. In Jared's case, once I did his complete evaluation, I found out that he would be a better candidate for an alternative procedure called PRK, which still uses the laser that corrects your vision, but the technique's a little different, the recovery is a little different, and it's a better procedure in some patients and safer for maybe 15 to 20% of the population. And I recommended that for Jared, and he went through PRK in 2010, so it's been 7 years.
7 years, yeah. I mean, perfect vision almost immediately. Like you mentioned, the recovery was a little bit different. I think there was maybe a 48-hour period of getting some adjustment to it. But just night and day. I mean, especially for somebody who goes to sports events all the time. Yeah. I didn't even realize what I couldn't see before until I had the surgery. So, now I can sit anywhere in a Avaya Stadium and I can see everything, the field perfectly. So yeah. It's a whole different game.
And because we have more than one procedure, we also recognize that it's our job to educate our patients to determine what they might be a good candidate for, and then to set their expectations as to, what they're hoping to get out of it, how fast their visual recovery will be. And in Jared's case, being a little slower, he had a few days off where things were a little bit fuzzy, and then they gradually cleared over time. And it's going to give the exact same results with the same stability. And I think here we are 7 years later. I actually had LASIK, it'll be 19 years coming up this year, and still have great vision. So what I'd like to do is maybe open it up for some questions and see if we have any questions coming in. One thing before we take questions, I wanted to say, Jared, I think you brought something that we were going to talk about during the Facebook Live segment.
tickets to the next Earthquakes match on September 16th. So I think we're going to give these out to some of the people who ask questions.
Great. So on September 16th, Saturday night, the Earthquakes are playing at Avaya Stadium versus the Houston Dynamo, who I think we're kind of chasing for a playoff spot.
Right
so
on it, yep.
It's going to be a good game. It's going to be, we're going to need the crowd out there, and we've got tickets that we're going to give away. So if you want to either submit a question, do that too. But if you also want to type into the comment section that you're interested in being in the running for these, we're going to do that after the Facebook Live segment and notify the winners. One of the other things I did want to ask you about, because I understand that you just came back from paternity leave. You had another little one, so
I did, yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that.
If my eyes are bloodshot today, it's not from the procedure. It's lack of sleep. So second daughter was born 2.5 weeks ago.
Oh, congratulations.
Hazel joined Montana, and
Nice.
We're a family of 4 now.
Family of 4.
It's been a
Well,
fun
I saw
run.
you last spring at one of the outside. I think it was an away game,
Mm-hmm.
and you guys did put the game up on the big screen. So we were sitting out on the grass, and you were out there with Montana, and your wife was out there too. It's a family affair.
It is. I mean, every game at Avaya Stadium.
And I take my boys. I've got a 13, 11, and 9-year-old, and we go to many of the home games. It's just a blast.
Oh, I mean, I think of all of the Earthquake sponsors, when I talk to you about the team and the sport, and we're at the game, you know the sport. You're not just a sponsor; you're a fan of soccer and the Earthquakes. Which
Oh,
is
it's
great.
fun. I get into it, and the stadium venue is awesome.
Yeah.
Everything is close.
Yeah.
Okay, so the difference between PRK and LASIK really has nothing to do with your final vision, your outcome. PRK stands for photorefractive keratectomy, and technically it was our first laser procedure. 1989 was the first ones being done worldwide. And it does a resurfacing of the cornea using a very precise laser, but on the surface of the eye, right on the top of the cornea. And LASIK is more popular only because the recovery is a little faster, but with LASIK we actually create a very thin flap of tissue on the cornea prior to doing the laser correction. And when we put the flap of tissue back, the edge of the flap heals a little bit quicker. So most people have heard the word LASIK, but if you're not a LASIK candidate, hope is not all lost. I saw a patient this morning. He has been to 3 providers. One said no surgery whatsoever. One said maybe PRK, but his corneas were very, very thin. And it was just something he was born with, but his corneas are otherwise normal, and because his prescription is relatively low, we can safely provide PRK in his case. LASIK would be risky, and so we have an alternative procedure for those patients who don't qualify for LASIK. So when we do laser eye surgery, because it's elective, we have the ability to kind of work around patient schedules and recovery and whatnot. I've always been a fan of offering surgeries on Fridays. I think it works well for our patient base who have a Monday through Friday schedule. They come in either Friday morning or afternoon, have their LASIK procedure. Saturday they're seeing well enough to drive, and they're back to work Monday. With PRK, we encourage about 5 days of kind of around the house vision. Their vision's usually fluctuating a little bit, and they're a little bit sensitive to light, so they tend to want to be indoors a little bit longer. But after about 5 to 7 days, their vision is now coming around. It's more functional. They're able to get back into their normal routine. So the astigmatism is that shape difference in the cornea, and we think astigmatism for the most part is something that's found at birth. In the first 5 years of life, as the eye is growing and maturing, it can change a little bit. So you could be born with none, and we won't really know that because we don't do full eye exams on newborns, but if there's an eye problem, we can oftentimes tell. And so we do know from those patients that we check early that astigmatism can be there at birth. It can change a little bit in the first few years of life, but usually levels off pretty quickly. If you've worn glasses from a relatively young age and astigmatism correction is in there, frequently that is very stable over time. In the teenage years, there can be some changes as well until you're an adult, which is one of the reasons we don't really do laser vision correction until a minimum of age 18, but you also have to demonstrate a stable prescription.
Jared, were you a soccer player at one time professionally?
No, I was not a professional soccer player. I grew up here in San Jose, going to San Jose Clash games from a very young age, and then eventually the Earthquakes. So I'm a rec soccer player and just a big fan of the team, who's lucky enough now to have the opportunity to work for the team.
Can you talk a little about how your career, how you ended up at being the COO?
Sure. So I actually joined the San Jose Earthquakes in 2007 as we had 6 people, I think, in the office when you first came down to meet with us, and was in charge of putting together our partnerships and our sponsorships team. That evolved over time just to a number of different roles. that grew in scale. I'm lucky enough now to be the chief operating officer, overseeing the business of the team and everything we've done at Avaya Stadium. So.
I think also having the stadium, this is I think year 3 that the team is playing at Avaya Stadium, and I really encourage any fans that I come across in my office and friends that they've never been to a game at Avaya Stadium, they should go. The venue is awesome, and the games are, every seat is excellent in the house because of the way the stadium is constructed. A lot of people say, well, you know, isn't soccer, it's such a low-scoring game, it can't be that exciting, and I just think it's the opposite. It's very exciting once you get into it. It's not like basketball where you have scores in the triple digits, of course, but it's a very exciting live game to attend.
Yeah.
So astigmatism is just one of the parameters that we that we can treat with our laser by quantifying it, figuring out where exactly it is on the cornea because there is a directionality to it. And so part of my surgical planning on every patient is to sit down and figure out what their numbers are and how we're going to address and treat them. Astigmatism just means that we need a little bit more laser in one axis, so sometimes we do more laser up and down and a little bit less side to side or vice versa. Once we come up with that treatment plan, that's loaded into the laser and it treats the patient right onto the axis of their astigmatism. If we have any other questions, we're happy to take those questions at this point. Probably, I think it's later today, we're going to be looking at the entries for the Earthquakes ticket. Remember, that's coming up September 16th. It's a Saturday night. We're going to be doing a giveaway as a result of this Facebook Live segment. And I really wanted to thank you, Jared, for coming in and talking with us about your experience with PRK for astigmatism.
And we talked a lot about my experience, but I think one of the interesting things to point out is how many people within the Earthquakes team you've actually treated throughout the years as well. So, you know, I think my experience came probably in the second or third year of our partnership,
Right.
But we had a list of players from going back to 2000, and I know up till today that you've worked with and have come through here.
Yeah, we've treated several players on the Earthquakes and within the organization, some of the staff there as well. Yeah, so to find out if you're a candidate, the first step is to know what your vision problems are, and to know that we have to bring you in. So if you were to just call our office, or you could even schedule these appointments online. The first appointment to our office, there's no charge. We bring you in, we're going to see if you're a good candidate, we're going to educate you about your options, and then we can address what the best potential surgical options you have. If you decide to move forward with the procedure, then we go into a little bit more detail of which procedure, would it be LASIK or PRK or even some other procedure as well. But we'll give you all of that information at that initial appointment. You can either do that online at our website, furlongvision.com. You can also call our toll-free number, 800-573-1010. Talk to any of our counselors. They know what type of appointment to get you in for, and your insurance isn't necessary for this appointment. Excellent. Well, great. Thank you very much. This wraps up our Facebook Live segment, Ask Dr. Furlong. I hope it was of value to you. If you submit any questions after we're done with the live segment feed, I'll do my best to answer those later today. And again, if you have any interest in the tickets for the upcoming San Jose Earthquakes game on September 16th at Avaya Stadium against Houston, please let us know by entering in the comment section and we will notify the winners. Thank you very much.